And we are live.
I'm recording this one. Alrighty.
Yeah, same, bro. Welcome back to another episode of
Another
Way Too
episode.
Deep.
Episode 40.
Ooh,
40. This one. Yes. No, I'm kind of sure about this one. So that's cool, dude.
Yo,
Welcome.
that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah,
Welcome,
thanks
man.
for coming. Thanks for coming.
We are joined
thanks for
by.
having me. Alex Fisher.
There we go, Alex Fisher. He's also a fellow member of the Simpus Maximus.
Yeah,
Right.
boy.
Yeah,
Like,
the
yeah.
game group.
We need like a tattoo like on our left arms saying
SM.
SP, yeah, or SM, yeah.
Yep, that has to happen, dude. You guys can get it. I probably won't. But yeah,
Wait, Ali, you can't eat tattoos, no? Okay.
tattoos are yeah. Yeah, well,
Alex.
No,
Alex,
I mean,
welcome to the show.
thanks. I mean, I don't want to break it off to you, but I don't want to get a tattoo like straight off the bat, like right just now, because I mean, a tattoo saying Simpus Maximus would be kind of weird. People would be like,
I mean-
"Where does that come from? What is that? Why do you
Is
have
that
that in your
Latin?
arm? Is that Latin?
Latin.
Oh my God, he knows
No.
Latin. I mean, of course, that would be a way to make the chicks dig, I guess. But besides that, not too much.
Alex,
It's
where are you
Latin
from?
for major simp.
Alex, where are you from?
I'm from Portugal, Lisbon.
Lisbon. I see. All right.
Another
Portugal.
one of
capital.
those.
We have a good
Yep.
crowd. Do we have a good crowd in Portugal? I'm sure. Tell us a little bit about Portugal. Yeah, about what are you up to nowadays? What's your story?
I mean, currently I'm a student for anthropology. I'm just finished my second year. Still waiting for my grades though. So far so good though. I've been able to basically keep up a good, as you guys would say, GPA, I suppose. Basically, in the future, I was looking to be able to. Well, my university is mostly a political and whatever, like social university. I don't want to get too much into that though. And the course itself basically consists on the relationships that human beings have as individuals with themselves, their peers, their groups, and their own societies. And we look at we'll look at it on various perspectives, mostly indigenous, because it's usually the ones that are more exotic. Those are the ones that we seek to do, because of course the most, let's call them, civilized ones are easier to
Well,
yeah,
yeah.
to access, yeah.
hmm
Also with the whole globalization thing. But yeah.
globalization. So yeah, are there what are the break-off societies that are not modernized nowadays? Like, what's the
I mean,
Fine.
there are
There.
very few societies nowadays that haven't really been affected by Western, Eastern. That's kind of a myth, but Western and Eastern civilizations.
Mhm.
I remember that there's one at least off the coast of India, if I'm not mistaken. It's an island. They live on an island. They've been living there for around 3,000 years.
Yep.
And it is said that if anyone approaches it, they get hit by a salvo of arrows, like a whole lot of arrows. And so even if you try to make contact with them, at first they will find you like odd, because they're not used to seeing, well, in the case of Indian people, the people from India, they're
Yeah.
not expecting to see people like fully clothed, probably even with a cell phone, a watch, stuff like that. Because the evolution level, it's basically, for them it kind of stagnated, and for us it just kept going.
So
So
these uncontacted tribes, like, I don't know if you heard about this, but there was the Christian priest who tried to go to them and basically was like, "Have you heard about our Savior, Lord Jesus Christ?" And they were basically like, "No, but would you like to go meet him?" And they like basically killed him with
yeah,
a bunch of
That-
arrows.
that-
I don't
that-
know if you see.
that actually it also almost happened, but this is more on a religion standpoint. I think it also happened on Japan, also with Christianity, when a few priests went there to Japan to try and spread the Catholicism. Also, in northern Africa, if I'm not mistaken. Saint Francis of Assisi. I'm not sure if it was him personally, but he sent some people also on basically a um, on a mission to also spread religion down there. But I mean, he caught up with, he was caught by some Muslims. It is said that he almost made a deal. That he actually got a deal to keep his head attached to his shoulder, pretty much. And he was a okay. Or the guys who he sent, they were a okay. They actually had a good relationship because it was almost mutual, because the ideals of Saint Francis and Muslims in general are pretty similar on their basis, I believe. Um, which is like one of the things that we actually talk about a lot is that clash of cultures, but also the religions, evolutionary states in terms of industry progress and other stuff. Um, but we don't dig too deep into it. We don't go like deep into the economics, deep into the social. We go deeper into the socials than we go into economics. But I'd say that economics and politics itself are the ones that we care about the least. We care more about the social part.
Hmm. That's interesting.
That's
And it's
interesting. Yeah,
interesting
it is.
because the society, because I feel like politics are very different for a lot of people. But maybe like the
Mhm,
social aspect is kind of the same in a lot of places, in many places around the globe. I feel
mhm,
like, and that's maybe kind of, I don't know if that's like dangerous or safe, because I know in like wildlife you have biodiversity to give different chances, different things to see what
mhm.
works, what doesn't work in a society. But now that we're all kind of homogeneous,
Yeah,
well, is that
that
dangerous or risky, or what's the? Mhm,
No, and actually, we also studied that on my first semester at
mhm,
university. We studied a bit of that. What you just mentioned, actually, the animal kingdom part, uh, as in the relations between animals, they're quite similar to the relationships that we as humans uh, basically create with our families, with our groups, and with our peers. There are some, for example, I think it's some chimpanzees. I think the chimpanzees, yeah, they are very territorial. For example, some people are very territorial as well, and they don't usually tend to um, stay close to other species, or if those species come too close to their well, they kind of make some borders, but they're not like borders as we have as human beings, as in countries and all that. But they basically make it like, okay, from this tree to that tree line, or to the end of this forest, we have our area, and we'll try to protect it as much as we can. um, and that's exactly what they do. They basically, anything that gets in there gets mostly slaughtered most of the times. We also have some other mammals. The studies we had to use were mostly from Africa. But yeah, we do have that perception that there are different species in the animal kingdom, and this can be basically compared and transposed to human beings as individuals and as groups. Um, and it's actually very interesting when once you start to get the hang of it. The start, like when you started off, it's a bit slow. You don't quite understand why you're having people talking about animals and what they eat, how they react with each other. But then once you start to get into it, you start to realize, okay, so these guys usually attack these because they're higher on the food chain. They're affecting their resources. Um, and that's pretty much it. And it starts getting really interesting when it comes to that.
mhm. They're kind of like societies, kind of, right? Like
Yeah,
different
yeah.
and in different hierarchies. That's interesting.
Hmm. Yeah, we also had some simians, some species of monkeys.
Mhm,
I don't want to say monkeys because monkey itself it's a subspecies, if I'm not mistaken. Um, they also have like that traditional, almost primitive like way of collecting resources. So the man goes out hunting, women stay close to the children or collecting berries. Once the kids are old enough, they also collect berries with their mothers. eventually, if they're males, they collect food with their fathers, go hunting, and all that.
That's interesting.
Interesting.
And now did you hear that some of them now have, see the video of the monkey holding the gun and shooting people? I don't know if you, and riding the motorcycle. It feels like it's straight out, but it's like, wait, are monkeys getting smarter? What's the bit? Or is that just like random?
I mean,
Yeah.
that could be like basically, well, they might have interacted a bit more with human beings, and of course that they also, and there have been some studies actually showing that monkeys also learn from what they see. So basically, if you make the same move in front of a monkey too many times, it's like the saying, monkey see, monkey do.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
if he sees you doing the same thing too many times, he'll try to basically recreate your movement with whatever object he's got. So if you put him in a cage and you give him a fishing rod, and he's in a cage that has access to a pond, let's say, which would be a bit, well, far-fetched, but let's imagine that. You could actually teach him to use the fishing rod to actually fish. Of course, that his resource. I know it's weird. It's odd. It's weird, but you can actually do that. There have also been studies in which they, I think it was in Japan also, they gave monkeys some kind of chips, like poker chips, stuff like that. And they said basically, okay, so now you use these poker chips and you give them to us, and we'll give you food. But the thing is, they lived in a semi-artificial environment. So basically, they had some resources that they could collect and would grow freely. But also, the caretakers will also give them some of the resources if they traded them with coins, which is quite interesting because they actually did it. They could do it. That is amazing. So the AK thing. The AK thing, it's pretty much like that. So you give a monkey an AK-47 and you show him a few times what he's supposed to do, and he's going to be like a bit like a baby. Okay, so what does this do? What does this do? He starts racking, he starts shooting, stuff like that.
You think Rise of the Planet of the Apes is basically our future?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, first of all, there are a lot of simians, monkeys, and other monkey species out there. So sure, we could teach a few of them. Would that be advisable? I mean, that's pretty much the same thing as the AI. If you invest too much into AI, you'll eventually have a Skynet situation in which everyone will die because everyone is now a robot and stuff like that. But no, I don't think that would be the future.
You don't think that's the future?
I don't think that's the future. I mean, of course, no. The part of the electronics and the AI industry, all that, it's possible. Now the ape thing, I mean, it's possible, but I mean, it's a bit far-fetched.
Well, in the movie, they were genetically modified. Was the idea, right? They had like a virus or something, and like with genetic modification, Ali, I don't know if you can tell us more about like
basically
designer babies. Yeah,
I can tell you. So basically, what they did was they
cloned sheep. Yeah.
It's not just clone sheep. We even in medicine we have something called gene therapy where we can edit your genes, without having to do every single one. So what we do is we use a retrograde virus, right? Usually viruses, what they do is they go inside the cell, they make their own genes, right?
These are proteins,
yeah, pretty much. And they make their own genes, and then they like try and reassemble themselves, and they go to different cells. Bacterias, however, they tend to insert their genes, right? So what we have is this virus. This virus is a bacteriophage. It attacks the bacteria in our bodies, which we have
a whole lot of.
Way more than we have. Here's a fun fact, right? We have more bacteria cells than we do human cells. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but
yeah, that's no.
So the viruses.
I knew we had a lot of them, but not that much.
Yes, not that much, but that kind of makes sense because we have guts with a lot of bacteria in them.
Pretty much. Also, you have your skin that has a lot of bacteria. You have, your orifices, Well,
I
we
see.
call them normal flora.
They like spread the genetic editing, and so basically, if you did the same in monkeys, the theory is you can get the monkeys
to actually do it.
yes, to operate a computer. Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Anyways,
Yes. Speaking of the Amish, what can you tell us about the Amish? Do you know anything about that
Ooh.
community? Mhm.
I mean, we don't talk too much about the Amish because, well, for all intents and purposes, they have a close relation to well, society itself,
Mhm.
overall society. Um, they're much more physically close to them and all that, um, which doesn't really make them the best people for us as anthropologists to make a study out of.
Mhm.
We tend to go to exotic things. Nowadays, we're trying to basically, instead of going global, going local, like trying and look at smaller things, institutions, even museums, stuff like that. Stuff related to culture mostly. Some political institutions as well. We also have like a few studies on police and how they operate. A few, and on those studies, there are also a few tweaks that they could do in terms of their response to uh, their relationship with society overall as well. Um, and yeah, but I don't think that the Amish are. I don't think I ever read one about the
Red
Amish
Hood
though.
and Amish. Okay. Wait.
There,
So
there
what's about?
might be one.
Mhm.
There might be one.
There might be because their whole bit is that they're disconnected like electronically. Maybe they don't have like electricity. Don't have
Hmm.
the like internet. From what I hear, mostly. I mean, that's the whole bit of the community is right. They're living. I don't know, like the.
I think that's actually a good point though,
Mhm.
because they're basically living in their own set of evolutionary level. Let's call it
Mhm.
like that.
Everything is
Um,
self-grown. They grow their own food.
yeah,
Right. They
exactly.
take care of
Because
each other. Mhm.
they basically, as the other guys from India, from the coast of India, they might have stagnated a bit their evolution, and so they just stay there and they're like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're not going to have any of the those electronic things that the other guys have. We're not going to have any wires going around. We're going to do and produce everything we need. So they also, and this is maybe me speculating because I don't really know, what also might end up happening is a subsistence economic system. So basically, they produce everything that they need and not a single thing more. And if they do produce a single thing more, they try to share it with their neighbors or they try to sell it with their neighbors. And they basically make a what we call in anthropology, in economic anthropology, a circular economic system in which you basically trade something with someone else. That someone will trade something with someone else instead of trading it back with you. Um, and that third person, that third party, will either trade with someone else or trade with you. But there is also like the cycle always ends. So basically, there's one person that receives ends up giving back, but to someone well,
So they
to
don't
someone
use
else, not
money.
to
So they don't use
yeah. They
money
don't
technically.
necessarily
Mhm.
use money. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like an I owe you one basically. Yeah, or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
Mhm.
and some societies in the 20s and 30s, found by Malinowski, which is a big big influence in anthropology, very very big anthropologist actually. He found out that that's exactly how some people worked and some societies worked. So-called traditional societies.
In 20s and
Uh,
the 30s. What do you
yeah,
mean?
20s and 30s.
Where?
Societies off the
Where?
coast of America,
Uh-huh.
on the Central Americas as well, in more secluded places that people don't usually have that much access. Um, I think this one, it wasn't on American Samoa. No, American Samoa was in the 70s and 60s, if I'm not mistaken, but it wasn't Malinowski.
I think the Middle East as well.
Middle
I'm,
East.
I'm
Oh, forgot about the
Yeah.
Bedouins, right? People living in tents and like surviving for like
hmm
yeah,
No, in the 20s
independently.
and 30s,
Hmm.
people did have houses, right? But at
hmm
the time, Arabia was still not borderized and colonized by the
Yeah.
Brits per se. So the whole border system was still not in the monetary
20s?
system was not in. Yeah, in the 20s.
That was less than 100 years ago.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
wasn't like, whoa,
There,
yeah.
there, there, there is,
Kuwait was
there,
established in the 40s or in the 50s. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Yes, I
there,
thought
there, there
countries were
is
just there. Mhm.
there has been this whole process of which we call in I'm sorry if I might be like literally translating this, but secularization that has been taking place in this whole century, this whole past century, the 20th
Mm.
century, in which borders have basically been drawn mostly for most countries. Some countries prior, some countries are basically they have their new borders. For example, we now have someone who's trying to break that pattern. You have the one to go too much into politics yet again. I'm sorry. Um, uh, the Israel prime minister or president. I get confused at times. What his position is? He also wants to annex some populations, a bit like Putin tried to do with Russia, but that doesn't really matter over here. What matters is that societies themselves, they've been, as I said before, they have different uh, evolutionary levels, but technically, and they have a tendency to uh, carry on their progression in an equal state. So basically, let's see that it's like if you look at a graphic, it's basically a straight line. It doesn't go up. It just goes straight, but either up or down.
What
Usually
is
it's
it?
up.
What is it?
The evolutionary state of societies overall. They always stay the same, but they tend to improve. Let's say I don't want to say improve because every single society is in their own way the correct way because it's basically an adaptive situation.
Mhm.
um, a
When you
bit
say
like regimes and all that. You have regimes that are more suited to certain places and countries due to their economics and their demographics and all that, and in other countries might be a bit different. That's all.
when you say
Okay.
evolved, sorry, when you
Mhm.
say evolved, do you mean like literally like you said people are evolving differently in different societies? Like someone in
Uh,
a when you mentioned it when we talked about
yeah,
the Amish or like the Indian societies, right? What do you
yeah.
mean
It's
by
in it's in
evolving?
mentality mostly.
Mhm.
Mindset, mentality, whatever you want to go for. Um, basically,
Alex, could you push your mic back a little bit? It's kind
oh
of
yeah,
off.
sorry, sorry,
No, you're
sorry,
good.
sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Don't worry
Like
about
usually people actually ask me to put a bit closer because they can't hear me. So like
it. Right?
I try to eat it. um, no, when I say evolution, I mean as in mindsets. When I say mindsets, I mean as I just gave the example of the economic status, let's call it, the whole circular thing,
Mhm.
it's a bit older than most countries that you see nowadays. Like Kuwait, Portugal have a different a way of practicing economy, practicing in a more widespread term, let's call it. It's different, you see. And these societies that used to do the circular economy, they used to practice circular economy, will eventually start growing into the economy that we have today, slowly, you know. But
Mhm.
they're so used to that it's going to take them a long while.
Oh, so that's what you mean by linear, and that it's
Yeah,
just the direction we're going, right? There is not
yeah.
really just some people are more ahead, some people are more
Hmm.
behind, right?
Like
But we
for
turn the
example,
same
if
way.
you were going to do a graphic, let me see if I can. Is this okay? Like a y and an x,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
All right.
uh the US, for example, they are a relatively new country in terms of history.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so they would be like, this would be their function, right? The y over here,
Mm-hmm.
but this would be their function. Other countries like Portugal, for example, would be a bit like this, a
More,
bit flatter.
are you saying you're more
uh,
evolved in Portugal
uh,
than in the States?
Sorry.
You're saying
No,
you're
no, no. They're
more
more
evolved?
involved. No, no, no. They're more involved in. Okay, so the x is basically the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the y is the level of evolution itself.
Oh, we
So
evolved
Portugal's
faster.
is, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Portugal's is faster, slower. Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
flatter. As in, it took a long, long time to get us where we are right now. The US, they might have even skipped a few steps, let's say, and they got it so high and
But
so.
that's only because the U.S. was basically like formed by a bunch of people who already left that society, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you have the
Yeah.
Brits, the Portuguese,
Mhm.
the
They
so
they
that's why
they they
go
not
ahead.
wanting to go too much into politics yet again, but they most likely will. They weren't exactly happy with their situation back at home, and they saw a chance. They took it. They tried going away. That's pretty much what we did as well with Portuguese. There were some people that went to what is nowadays Brazil. They weren't really too happy with the situation over here. We had an absolutist regime back then, and then we started having the liberals with all the French Revolution and all that. It started to get mixed up. The king at the time had to go to Brazil, became the emperor, the first emperor of Brazil. A whole crazy stuff, and it's basically what happened with the US, except that they decided to go for a change instead of going for let's keep the same thing, as in let's keep the queen, let's try to make something different. I suppose that's exactly what they did in that way, in the evolutionary way, as in industry, economics, and all that. It worked. Most certainly, it did. Yeah.
Interesting. But that, yeah, it's like it's interesting to talk about. And like I don't know
We
what to
live in a
say. It
society. We
really,
really
We live
do
in a
live in a
we live,
society.
society.
Yeah, yeah.
Really
we
do
live
live in
in
a
a
society. Wait, so
yeah.
I want to take. What's your take on this? Who owns the land that you're kind of on, right? So is it the indigenous people that were here before me, or is it us, the people that are here now? What's your take on that? I know that's a dumb question.
Okay, it's not dumb question. There are no. This is something important I learned. There are no
Mm,
dumb questions when it comes to these things, because
mhm,
there are all pertinent questions. They're all important questions,
mhm.
and that one specific, that is a good question, actually, a very good question, because um, you see, over here in Portugal, what most likely happened is that I'm speaking for Portugal because I know the basic history. We had a few tribes, let's call them, and they basically started evolving into uh, a state, let's call it. We also have a few things to talk about on that on my course, as in the evolution of societies onto from groups to societies to states. Um, and what happened here is that we were kind of invaded by the Romans. We fought back. We almost got basically extinguished. We were almost killed off, like all of us. Um, but eventually, the legacy of the Romans, it stayed over here. Eventually, when the the West Empire fell, I think it's the West. Yeah, because it's the one from Rome. Yeah. When the West Empire, Roman Empire fell, we kept their legacy, their like the whole the city, some of the cities that
Mhm.
they had back then, they're still around here.
Right? Yeah.
um
Hmm.
yeah, and we still have a few like catacombs and all that, even in Lisbon, which is actually something very interesting. I didn't even know that this about until about 2 years ago.
Hmm.
We still have Roman catacombs below Lisbon, which is quite
Yeah.
interesting.
What is
Yeah, like
why is that significant? Yeah. What is that?
it is significant because basically Lisbon itself was built on top of an older city,
Hmm.
and this is what happened also with some
The
other.
ancient city.
No. Like you actually have
Yes.
some excavation sites like all over
Hmm.
Lisbon,
Hmm.
whole buildings that anthropologists and archaeologists studied, um, basically through some other things that we also have.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Can you open
there
up
you go.
pictures, Ali? I don't know if you can see. I want to see what a catacomb looks like. Yeah. Hmm. Oh,
Um,
those things,
those are
right?
pretty cool.
Yeah.
And the thing is, uh, they
Whoa.
there are some spots in Lisbon. We also took in their style. The picture on the left below, if you can see, historical treasures to discover in Lisbon. That is an actual. It used to be a church, a monastery now, mostly for uh, uh, well, now it's for tourism and all that. But it used to be a monastery. and it took in a lot of the Roman style of things and all that. We did take a lot of that. We also adapted it in terms of architecture and all of that. But as I was saying, we have excavation sites. We have also mass graves, which is kind of well, surprising, in a way, in places we weren't really expecting it. But of course, we weren't expecting it. Basically, you had a city built on top of it. And all of this to say that basically we evolved. We took a beating from the Romans. We got back up. Then we had this Spanish people. They thought that they could rule over us back then, only to realize that the son of one of the Spanish queens, they had their territory. Nowadays their territory divided into a whole lot of parcels, and one of them, her son, which is our first Portuguese king, he decided to say, no, you know what, it's enough. Enough's enough. I was born over here. I want to rule over this. This is rightfully mine. I will fight for it if I need to. And his mother was like, okay, no, just drop that idea. Don't get too excited about that. Basically he literally got some troops to fight his mother's troops
Crazy.
back. And he got it. And he got it. He got it.
Not bad.
That's crazy.
GG. Well played.
GG indeed.
Yeah, and we also still have a lot of influences from back then, before that, even before we gained independence, which is, well, basically what you were saying in the beginning. What if we are occupying indigenous territory? Well, technically we are. Old, very old indigenous territory. I am, at least. But that culture, and that subculture in this case, it was able to live until nowadays because it's basically the same people, the same society, let's call it.
Interesting. Here's a good question. Do you believe in secret societies? Like, do you think there are secret societies?
That's a great question. That's actually so good. Yes. Come on, a hidden world. I mean, no, honestly, yes. Are there places not discovered? You think?
Places not discovered.
Not places not discovered. No. I think elites that are like above everyone else in society, and they're all like in a hidden world, sort of like the catacombs at the time, right? But like,
do you think
I
like that? I like that. I like that because we, we have the new religious movements, a lot of new religious movements that actually are based on that. We have the Order of the Temple Solaire. I think that's the one. For example, I think it's in Belgium. If I'm not mistaken. Which basically it's the elite of the elites. If I'm not mistaken, for them it's the elites of the elites. They're the elite of the elites. They're the best ones in the world. They have to be the best. They control everything, and at least it's what they say. But of course, it's not proven. I mean, for all we know, it could be the so-called Illuminati.
There was a time where everyone was crazy about them, and like,
exactly.
In Belgium.
Yes. No, but the thing is that they, for example, I'm not sure if it was the Temple Solaire, but some of them, they resorted to mass suicides and all that crazy stuff to
Yikes.
Yeah, to
like I don't know how they can be so convinced enough to like.
No, because they think it's like, okay, so salvation only comes through these set of things. So you did this set of things, and then on the bottom of the checklist, it's like die.
It's a cult.
If you die, your soul will be placed in the realm of the forevers or stuff like that.
Sorry, is that a cult? Is that a cult? Technically,
what
a cult? I don't know what that is in Portuguese. It's like just when a bunch of do you know the drinking a Kool-Aid? Yeah, do you know that term?
Oh yeah.
Yes, you know where that's from? Jacksonville. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, Jacksonville.
I don't know. Drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Where's that from?
That I think that's the one where it's from. Yeah, Jacksonville. Yeah, I
Jacksonville.
think I don't remember the name of the guy, but he bought it from he bought the land in American Samoa, if I'm not mistaken. And he got a whole lot of people together because he said that he was gonna guide them to salvation, and that's actually an interesting thing. Yeah, drinking the Kool-Aid.
Where's it coming from? They don't tell us where it comes. Literally, so what happened? Open it up. Open it up. Oh wait,
We
where
need to
does it
open
come
up
from?
Wikipedia.
Wait, where does it come from? Where does it come from? My bad. Yeah. Jonestown. Bingo.
Yeah, Johnstown Massacre.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the one.
look up Jonestown now. Look up Jonestown now. Right? Yes. All
'Cause,
right. So is this a secret society? What do you think of it? How do you
don't think
describe the society?
I don't think it's a society. That's a new religious movement as well.
Mhm.
Yet again, it ended up in a very bloody way, in a very, I would even call it stupid.
Mhm.
I don't want to sound like an asshole, but it sounded yeah.
Wait,
Because it's
what's
like,
this outside? What's happening? I don't. Can someone explain this to me?
Please,
Wait.
Alex. Yeah, explain it. I don't know if you know the story.
okay, basically he tried to get them to follow him. He was a very charismatic person. He talked to a lot
That
of
guy,
people.
bottom left. Mhm.
He got a lot of I don't remember the name. I'm sorry. I'm really like the name is like in the tip of my tongue, but I can't get it
Ali,
out.
click him. The bottom left corner. Who's this guy? What's his name? The guy in the hat with the glasses. That's him.
It doesn't say.
Doesn't say. Never mind.
Well,
This
anyways,
guy.
he
Yeah.
was a very charismatic leader. He got a whole bunch of people to basically almost go live like the Amish did, right? The difference is that it was, for all intents and purposes, a cult, but not a secret cult, a secret society, nothing of that, because they actually made it quite
Jim
public
Jones.
at a yeah, Jim Jones, exactly. They actually made it quite public in certain situations, right? So he got them all onto a plantation, and I don't really know what made him think that it was a good idea to actually kill them all off. Mothers, fathers, children, grandpas,
Everyone.
whole
They made them
families.
drink poison. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Like imagine just he doesn't even tell this to anyone. He just says, okay, one of these days we're gonna be we should be aware of what's gonna happen, and what's gonna happen is the reckoning day, and we're gonna be in the judgment day, and we need to be ready for that. And for us to be ready for that, we need to save our souls. And the best way that he had to save their souls, or so he says, would be to basically go full crazy man and just kill them all. Basically, it was almost a genocide, because that's a whole lot of people if you look at it.
That's crazy. And he convinced them. That's just like
he convinced them, and that's the thing. Maybe I'm not sure if they knew that there was Kool-Aid. Of course, we don't know if they knew, because no one lived to tell about it. No one lived to tell the story. But even if they could, I'm not sure if they would be able to tell us with the utmost certainty if it was him or not who made them drink the Kool-Aid, because they were so they were thinking that he was such a great leader, such a great person, that he would lead them through thick and thin.
I don't think they knew about the poison inside the Kool-Aid, to be honest. Because if they were told, I'm pretty sure one or two would have survived.
Yeah, they would have thought, okay, no, this is getting a bit out of hand.
But they were being brainwashed, like you couldn't be more brainwashed than those people who literally left their countries to go travel, live on this plantation. They served with this guy, and like and then like every day he'd tell them like, hey, one day if they come and invade us, like the government, right, we're all gonna have to drink this Kool-Aid, because we can't like let them like corrupt us and take us.
Yeah, that's our
He tells them that
salvation.
every single day.
Yeah.
And then one day he gets on the radio and he's like, everybody drink Operation
Drink Kool-Aid, boys. Drink up. Yeah. Pretty much like that.
Drink up.
Yeah.
Out of it.
Okay.
Drink G Fuel. Yes.
Sponsored
by G Fuel. Amazing. Yeah. So that's
no, it isn't. No, it isn't.
Was that the biggest cult? Do you know if that was the biggest? You know what I mean by cult now?
Yeah. Not necessarily secret societies now. Yeah, but I would say that is of the ones that we have any sort of idea, that would be one of the biggest ones, or at least it was. Of course, now
900
it's,
people. Yeah, that's a lot
yeah,
of people.
that is a lot of people.
Mhm.
Because usually cults, they tend to be a bit like secret societies, or as we say, secret societies. Um, they tend to stick to smaller groups, or even if they're a bigger group, they're
They have a
basically like
system.
regular people. Yeah,
Don't
they have a system. They don't really uh, like reunite themselves like the whole congregation. They don't, most certainly they don't do that. They do it a bit more like, okay, 5 or 6 people over here, 5 or 6 people over there. And I mean, sure, we could have some of those like all around the world, but we don't even know it. But
Mhm.
I mean, at least until now that we're aware, there hasn't really been any reason for any kind of alarm, or to raise any kind of alarm, because if they're just keeping themselves safe and other people, that's a-okay. The thing is when they do a bit of a thing like happened with Jonestown, and everyone basically dies, that's a lot different. That whenever, like, of course, now we have also the police, groups of bigger widespread police like European police, Interpol and all that, that basically they cross-reference it, I suppose, with stuff all over the world, to make it a bit easier to research and to search into these kinds of situations, to make a link, to get a connection to it, even understand a bit of what is going on, because they might be in the blind as much as we are and we don't even know it, if
it's
those
true.
things are happening, that is.
It's true.
Amazing. Whoa,
But
we live in a society for sure.
we live in a society.
Yeah.
Well, I
What's the
think we
next stage?
reached.
What's the next stage of this society then? What's the next stage of this society? Do you
Oh
think?
yeah, like where do you
That's
see the
yeah,
future
because
going with
that's.
society?
Hmm.
I mean, right now, I don't know if I could say, because we anthropologists were so used to looking at the past and just trying to learn with that past and move beyond it, like move into the future with well, with a clearer mindset, and not just like, okay, it needs to be this. Not we can't be as controlling as we have been in the past few centuries,
Hmm.
because then we'll have some other colonizations. Hell, we don't even know if Mars has any possible in future colonies, for example.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that might
Yes,
be the next step on, I would say, evolution
that's true.
in both technology and
Hmm.
society. We can move beyond just this planet, which is also getting a bit crowded for us right now. Um,
You think
even
so?
with
Yeah.
I think even with the whole COVID thing, I mean, COVID hasn't killed nearly enough people. I don't want to say this like that, because
Oh my
it
God.
sounds wrong. It sounds wrong. It hasn't killed and nearly enough people to make a change on a major change. Like, we
Mm,
still have the same problem: starvation, uh, no availability of water, diseases that we just can't, well, pretty much like COVID, not a disease but a virus in this case, that we just can't control. We need to like create a whole lot of plan Bs and plan Cs, as
mhm,
many as we can, to basically prevent that stuff that happened until now keeps on happening. So only by looking at what is happening right now, what is happening around us, can we say, what do we need to go, where do we need to go tomorrow, um, to prevent that happens, and to ensure that stuff goes better from here on out.
underwater societies,
Well,
Atlantis.
that would be pretty cool.
That's
Yeah.
that are those things? No, I don't know.
I
Uh,
mean, those are probably in the very distant future, but
yeah.
for
And,
now, see you in Mars, boys.
Or the very distant past, right?
well,
No, El Dorado, El Dorado, the hidden city, city of gold.
yeah, in
Those.
Brazil, yeah, it's
Oh, so it's
supposedly in
real.
Brazil. They say
Oh,
no. They say that it would be geographically would be located around Brazil or the Southern Americas. But yeah, for
hmm,
example, Atlantis, for example, as well.
hmm,
We also have that. It's a great example. But this one has been actually said to be true, I think. At least they found a few ruins. I'm not sure if the whole thing, the whole idea we have of Atlantis as in a huge, widespread civilization, we don't know if that is actually what happened there. It could have been like a shipwreck and they were carrying, for example, we Portuguese, we used to take like a sign, a stone sign that we would place in every single place that we went, well, outside of Portugal during the 1500s.
Colonization.
Yeah,
Yeah.
during the colonization period. Yeah. Could be one of those, for example. I don't want to say that it's a Portuguese necessarily. It could be anyone's, to be honest, but we don't know. I mean, it would be cool
Atlantis.
to live in the water.
Yeah. Cool.
Would.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Possible. I mean, it could be possible, but it's gonna take a time. It's gonna take a long time.
Mm-hmm. Whoa. Live in water, live in space, live on Earth.
But like until then, I
Mhm.
guess it's a very. I guess it's a see you in Mars, boys.
Yeah.
See you in Mars. See you in Mars,
It's a pretty
lads.
much a see you in Mars, boys. Yeah.
See you in Mars,
Yeah, I guess
boys.
so.
Yes. So that's bound to
Anyways.
happen. You say that. Sorry. You say that's linear, right? So
Hold on.
there. So what I mean by my question is, so you think that if we had not discovered the internet, or sorry, we haven't discovered the electricity, Tesla, you think
Mhm.
someone else after him would have discovered it at some point, or and like that's just the way we're gonna trend as a society?
I
Like it's kind of
think that
fixed,
I
or
think
is
that
it like
someone would
random?
actually find it. No, I think someone would find it. Like it's a bit like fire. If you didn't like, basically, if a guy didn't struck two stones together, he wouldn't be able to discover fire. But the next guy could do it. Like imagine he tosses a rock. He's angry. Tosses a rock against another rock. Closes some sticks. Starts a fire. And he's like, okay, damn, I just started as fire. So this might be the way to do it from here on out, like friction and all that. And from there, they start discovering new stuff and new stuff and new stuff. Well, if there wasn't any electricity nowadays, there would be. Like if it hadn't happened the same way that it did, it would happen in another way. But we would find it. We would get it.
So we are not lucky to discover this stuff because it's bound to happen. Is that what you're saying?
I think that those things are bound to happen no matter what.
They're bound to be discovered. They're bound to. If it's not by like this person, it's by another person.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say like, I don't want to go into all that philosophy thing of like, it's bound to happen or it's not bound to happen. I can do my own stuff. He can do his own stuff, because this is almost a common ground. It's basically stuff that is bound to happen, but it could be anyone. So if I wanted to, if I lived, let's say 500 years ago, I could find electricity a bit sooner, I suppose. I could create a steam engine a bit earlier as well, I suppose.
Go back in time.
Then.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Create the
No,
internet. Yeah.
not necessarily the me of nowadays. Like if I had lived 500 years ago, I could have also created that if I had the mindset, if I had the ideas for it, if I wanted to make a change. I think that would most certainly allow me to make a change. So basically, and this is also kind of a life lesson. If you actually believe that you can do things, don't take them off your head. Write them down on a checklist if you have to, or remind yourself every day that you want to do those things. Because if you don't do those things, someone's going to do them, but they're not going to do it for you. They're going to do it against you.
And societies can change. So just by like one individual, right, who does something randomly that exponentiates, like electricity, Wi-Fi.
Things, well, yeah. But, I mean, one single man can't change it, but one single man who tries to make as much as he can, tries talking to people, and people start talking about it, and everyone starts talking about it eventually, that usually ends up happening. And that is great. That is the way to go, I think.
Interesting. I think my closing monologue is we live in a society.
That's a monologue.
That's it. Yep, we live in a society. Alex, my friend, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was a really good talk.
I mean, I'm sorry if it was too serious.
No,
that was
perfect.
Good.
No, it was good. Like these are the conversations we're looking to have. You know, it's really good. So, thank you very much for coming on. Is there anything you'd like to shout out?
Or say?
I mean, if you want, you can check out my YouTube channel as well. Also called Alex Fisher.
What do you do on your YouTube channel?
I used to do, and this was like 2 months ago. I haven't edited a single video in yeah, 2 months pretty much. It's also called Alex Fisher. I only have in there right now a couple of videos. I think it's 13 videos. First half of Resident Evil 2 remake, the Leon storyline. I already almost finished the second part, so I'm trying to like get almost an upload schedule, but it's getting a pretty hard because I have also other things I need to do, like getting my studies checked, getting my work in check as well for the summer.
Yeah.
And it gets a bit hard. But anyways, if you wanna, if
Definitely.
anyone wants to check
Watch
it out,
it.
just
Plug
go
it
check
in.
it out.
Link in bio.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
I'll put it there.
Anyways, thank you so much for coming on the show. Two Cats, 4th of July. That's like tomorrow. Wait, that's
It got
tomorrow.
postponed.
Wait,
Postponed.
what?
Yes. July 14th, new release date.
Make it July 15th, and it'll like correlate with the whole Fousey Tube thing.
What happened to FusiTube on July 15th?
That's a whole nother story. We'll get into it next time. Thank you for watching today's episode. If you made it this far, Blueberry
Love it.
Dye will be out soon. Everything else will be out soon.
Allah.
Alex,
Thank you, Alex.
love you so
Really,
much. Thank you for
That was
coming.
Thank you.
Great to meet you, Alex.
You
All
too.
right.
This was a lot of
Thanks
fun.
a lot.